45 minutes without stopping. It did not break, it did not stop, it did not jam. The hardest part was getting volunteers to keep filling the cartridge belt with cartridges. 45 minutes, a long time. And the generals were duly impressed after 45 minutes. They said, well, wait a minute. A machine this magnificent must take a lot of tools to maintain. The inventor said no. He took a cartridge, went to the back of the gun, took the tension off the drive spring, thusly, and he took the entire gun apart by hand. Very easy to do. The next version of this gun became the air-cooled 1984. The only drawback to that version was its water-cooled heritage that did not allow for a quick change barrel. Not being water-cooled but air-cooled, this barrel could overheat quickly, and your only option was to disassemble the entire gun and remove the guts out the back, sort them out, re-headspace them, put them back together, put it back in the gun, put the grip back on, pull the bolt back, let the spring out, and then load it and start firing. The German guns could change the barrels in approximately 15 seconds, less time than it takes to describe it. Very reliable gun, very rugged gun. They were in the United States armories until the 1970s with the National Guard. Well respected by troops, ours and enemy. We have a rifle that was issued to many American troops that were not frontline troops. If you were driving a truck or working an artillery crew, medical troop, anything like that that didn't require frontline service, you probably would have been issued an M1 carbine. The United States manufactured over 8 million of these during World War II. Companies such as IBM, RECOILESS Jukebox Company, all these General Motors, all these companies came to the aid of the United States manufacturing firearms. I had an anecdotal story from a friend's brother who was a sergeant in the United States Army in World War II. He said in combat, he could tell what someone was shot by. He said if he was shot with the Springfield or the M1 Garand, that man fell to his knees. He said if that man was knocked backwards, he was hit with the BAR. If that man was hit by an M1 carbine, he would wince and continue coming. You don't want a pistol caliber cartridge in the front line. It doesn't do you well. It's well loved because it's light, reliable, easy to carry and accurate, but it's not a man-stopping cartridge. So you're kind of putting a boy's rifle in a man's job. It's not a fair comparison. It's a very good tool for what it was supposed to do.
Light to carry.
Light to carry.
Like Dan said, this fired a pistol cartridge, so it was slower and less weight. So the knockdown power was next to nothing.
Very pleasant to shoot. There's very little recoil. It's actually enjoyable and fun.
You know.
Versus, for example, the recoil of the Springfield rifle was actually painful after several shots.
Yeah, especially in an 03. But this, you know, was carried by officers as an alternative to a .45 pistol or crew serve weapons like a mortar crew, machine gun crew. They needed some type of personal protection. So if they didn't have a .45, they usually had these. But everyone in the squad carried an M1 or a Thompson or something of that nature.
Fire in the hole!
Fire in the hole!
Oh, no.
And put that in context, every one of our enemies is doing this in between shots. Americans just had to pull the trigger.
I never fired my carbine that many times.
Good for you.
America's favorite, the Thompson submachine gun. The same gun that Al Capone and all the outlaws in the 30s carried was adopted by the United States Army in 1928. It was complicated, it was expensive, it was reliable, but it was heavy. To manufacture an 12-pound Thompson submachine gun, you'd probably have to start with about 35 pounds of steel. An awful lot of machining steps, an awful lot of people, an awful lot of finishing, an awful lot of assembly. So America thought they could save time and money and came up with the World War II version of the Thompson submachine gun called the M1. Actually, they came out with the M1, and they even simplified that into the M1A1. Fewer moving parts. It also started with 35 pounds of steel. It also took a week to make. It also cost about $145 in World War II money. There was an even better way. We noticed that the British and the Germans started to make guns out of stamped steel. So the United States government went to General Motors. They went to the guide lamp division that used to make hubcaps and headlight buckets. They stamped out the left half of a gun. They stamped out the right half of a gun. They welded them together. For $12.50 and about an hour's worth of work, you had an M1A1 submachine gun. This gun was utterly reliable. The soldiers hated them because it wasn't made out of wood. Every gun had been built out of wood for hundreds of years. This is the first one with no wood, not even plastic, all stamped steel. Also, it reminded them of a grease gun that you would grease your car with, so they nicknamed it the grease gun, a name it still holds today. These guns were so reliable that they served until the 1990s in tanks. If you had a tank and you wanted to store it, it sure does not take up a lot of room. It's a very compact gun, very reliable, and this 45 caliber, same as the Thompson, same as the 1911 A1, same cartridge. Let's see what those. We have the World War II 2.36-inch bazooka. The main problem infantry had in advancing in the Second World War was German armor. It was tougher than we'd ever imagined, anticipated, or expected. So we copied the German idea of the Panzerfaust with our own, more complicated version of the bazooka. It worked pretty well. A 2.36-inch rocket would be inserted in the rear, electrically wired, and then fired from an electric contact activated by a battery. If a bazooka wasn't enough, we had the 57mm recoilless gun, which really only came about in the very end of the war. Recoilless meaning that all the energy was actually ejected at the rear of the gun upon firing. That's why this case is perforated. The backblast out of the rear breech of this gun would knock you over. The manual states, do not be 85 feet behind this gun when it fires. So we find that every other power in the Second World War was using a bolt-action rifle. The American soldiers had the M1 rifle. Fire in the hole! I shot a real one. As quickly as you wanted to shoot.
How was that, Bob? Did shells flying out?
It's like described by General George Patton. The greatest battle implement ever devised. When you're in a tactical situation and your enemy is shooting at you, a squad of American GIs firing M1 rifles could easily overwhelm the enemy, make them keep their heads down while we advance on their position. One of our favorite guns. This is the model of 1918, a Browning automatic rifle. Designed by John Browning, the same man that invented the 45 automatic and machine gun. This was an automatic rifle. This was adopted in 1918, all 18 pounds of it. It was considered a secret weapon, and a patent was not even filed lest the Germans get the
It's single shot also.
Designed to get like one man per squad in the Second World War, the Marines in the Pacific like to have two per squad because of the firepower that this rifle would lay down. Steady ammunition with 20-round detachable box magazine. It even had a bipod on the front that you could adjust and set up. Most of the time, while marching, the extra 2 pounds of bipod would feel awfully heavy. It would snag on trees and bushes, and probably the farm fields of France are littered today with bipods for the Browning automatic rifles. Most of the guys would take them off.